All right, so the defense I want to take a look at and just say what comes to mind, either as a unit or as a player. Anybody there between Myles Garrett, Chris Smith, Olivier Vernon, Chad Thomas, and Anthony Zettel? Anything pop out at you?
Well, I mean, there's a rumor out there that Dorsey might be looking at Gerald McCoy.
Right.
He's 31 years old.
Possibly Duke Johnson involved?
Made 6 Pro Bowls. Had 6 sacks last year as an interior guy. So I think you can look at that and still and think that, you know, maybe they're still going to do something else there. Who knows? Let's
take a look at defensive tackles. And there you see Sheldon Richardson, who recently signed, Larry Ogunjobi, Trayvon Coley, Brian Price, Devereaux Lawrence, and Carl Davis. Not household names yet.
No, I like Ogunjobi. I mean, he's if you're talking Sashi Brown's regime, he still gets credited. Les?
Credited. Yeah.
Credited for that pick. So that's a good one.
Well, you got to be good if you survive that.
Sheldon Richardson, I think, is maybe a guy that's on the other side of his prime a little bit, but he's still only, I think, 29.
Joe Schobert, Jannard Avery, Sione Takitaki, as well as Xavier Woodson-Luster, Christian Kirksey, Mac Wilson, Adarius Taylor, and Ray Armstrong.
I think based on what they did in acquiring Takitaki and Wilson, that you're going to see Schobert probably move on.
What if Takitaki's parents named him Ray Ray? It would be Ray Takitaki.
Yeah, thank goodness.
From Walla Walla, Washington.
They didn't do that.
All right, let's move on. See what we have. Cornerbacks, Denzel Ward, T.J. Carey, as well as Greedy Williams, one of the great names, Terrence Mitchell, and Tavere Thomas.
Yeah, the Greedy Williams pick, I think, is really interesting because he was ranked pretty high at the beginning of the draft process. And ended up being the 7th cornerback taken, Les. And you don't know whether it's because he doesn't play quite as physical as he needs to, he has some tackling issues, or if it's because he didn't work out and he didn't visit other teams. And sometimes the NFL guys look at that and say, I'm not taking a chance on somebody I don't know that well.
How about on Takitaki? And I mean, the name stands out. But when you keep hearing how John Dorsey rates these guys and how they scout them, there was no contact between the two sides at all, as far as I know. Doesn't that seem unlikely?
Yeah, it does seem unlikely. You'd like to trust that Dorsey played that position as a player in the NFL, right, and that he would have a feel for what makes a good linebacker. Then again, we have John Elway still trying to find a quarterback in Denver.
True.
So
safeties on this roster: Demarius Randall, as well as Eric Murray. Morgan Burnett, sounds like a stock firm, doesn't Morgan Burnett? I've invested my funds in Morgan Burnett. Sheldrick Redwine and Jermaine Whitehead.
Yeah, I didn't really pretend to know a lot about Sheldrick Redwine before they got him, but he's another guy that's kind of a bigger, corner that should, or safety that should help.
What do you make of Mac Wilson and that?
I don't know. I mean, again, I'm only repeating things that I read about these guys because I didn't watch any tape on Mac Wilson or any of these other guys.
No.
The Pro Football Focus group doesn't seem as impressed with him. He was one of these guys. In other words, his production hasn't matched his talent. He was a 5-star recruit, I believe, coming out of high school. I guess if you look at it and say, would you take a 5-star talent in the 5th round of any NFL draft, you would probably say, yeah.
He didn't play very well in those 3-4 years.
He was not as productive, certainly, as Takitaki was.
All right, when we